Let's have a look at this one. Something I wanted to talk about last night came out when I was looking at my journal for the week and looking at the planning process that I will be going through. I made some basic notes last night and I want to just chat through those with you to see where we go. I'm just going to cover up a couple of the notes that I made on the right hand page. But basically, last night, which was Saturday, I sat down just before bed and thought to myself, what do I want to do in this particular week ahead? So it's the week that's going to begin on the Sunday evening for me, which is really when I want to get clear on what happens the following few days. But looking at my diary for today, I've made a list of some of the things that I can see that I want to be getting on with, and I'm just dropping ideas in here. There's no particular order to these. In fact, I'm going to take away these cover books just because it's valuable to do so. But I want to look at the idea of some tracking videos. I was in London last week and I met up with my friend Barry, who many of you know from his previous analog website or analog YouTube channel, which I've always enjoyed. We had a wonderful few hours together, and there'll be more coming from that. I recorded a video when I was down at London South Bank, and I actually uploaded that one this morning. I've got another one from Leeds Waterfront. I always find it easy to write when I am down at the waterfront so that I can see boats passing, traffic, people wandering around, coffee shops, things like that. It's that little white noise that for me makes things so easy when I'm actually working on a manuscript. I want to do some more walkabout videos. So one of the things I think I'm going to do is go over to York for a few days this week and just record a bunch of static videos as well as some walkabouts as I wander around the streets of York. I'm going to go back to London because I think I could do maybe 10 or 12 half-hour static camera videos over the course of a weekend. That would be nice, just to capture the crowds and some of the historic buildings that are so beautiful and which I always enjoy seeing. On Saturday this coming week, I have a Shut Up and Write workshop in Nottingham with my group, the Nottingham Writers Studio. Barry mentioned his move from Word to Linux, so I want to have a look at a video relating to that. With my coin trading, I have gone through the beta process with my colleagues and other small investors, and we're going to go to a full launch halfway through August. At the moment, I've put, I think, £300 in to one of the currency accounts, and I'm just doing daily little trades where maybe the hope and the expectation is that they will consistently show 1 to 3% per trade. I want to do a spreadsheet on silver. I want to look at residency options for Cyprus and more investment in trading between cryptocurrencies through a masternode. In July, just looking at this, I did a huge amount of writing. I've filled both of these books with either symbol handwritten notes and storytelling processes, and then also this was unlined paper, but also in a lined book. I've been doing a lot of development writing, looking at characterization, bringing out stories, looking at the aspects of my characters that I want to find. What do I want to find? I want to find more depth to the characters, and so I've been doing lots of writing in this format, and I'm really happy with that. That's gone very well. But I need to write all of this up and actually get it out onto my laptop. So that's what this write-up process is about. In the novel so far, there is a big scene which actually could become a whole new book. So I'm going to take out that. I've called it the cash truck. It's an attack on an armoured cash collection vehicle. I'm going to take that out, and I think that can become the basis or the bones of a whole new story. I've got updates to make on the existing story, but all of that has been done by hand over the course of July, and that needs doing. I finished my work at the college on the 31st of July. I took the redundancy package, so I'm technically without work at the moment, and that's completely fine. But I want to look at a review of our income and what those aspects of income might be, so that I can do a little bit of planning with that. With the ISA, which is an individual savings account here in the UK, I want to look at where I go with that as we go into the 25-26 year and across winter. In terms of video editing, I've been using something called CapCut, and I think it was Kevin Colby on YouTube. Let me just check that. I think it was Kevin who did a really good video about the best use of editing software. And I want to look at getting rid of CapCut and replacing it with something which gives me more control over the video content that I am creating. I know I've got to go to the bank this week and get some money into the account. I've got some cash to pay in. And then with the house is one of the biggest activities that I have on a day-to-day basis. And that's the one here in England where I rent out some rooms to housemates. I've got to move some things around between rooms 3 and 4 on the first floor. And then down on the ground floor, I want to advertise a vacant room and just make sure that anybody who responds to the ad knows that's just for 3 months, nothing more than that up till pre-Christmas. I've got a health check later this week. I want to get down to the swimming pool, and I'd also like to go to the cinema. So those were my very rough and ready, grab a pen, make the notes, all the sorts of things that I want to look at over the course of this new week and see how that turns up in the diary. Let's look at what I then did last night, and I've set out various activities, and the week is starting to take form. So today is the Sunday. In terms of the house, I've got a new housemate arriving this evening, but it's quite late. It's 10 o'clock tonight. So before dusk, I want to make sure that his room is ready. I've done a hoover and a tidy of the room plus the lounge. And the room I'm in now is going to become my temporary bedroom for the next month before I head back to Mexico. So I want to bring back my large green shed door and put it across this base here. And then I've got the space that I want as my creative workstation, basically. In terms of YouTube, I did a video the other day, probably 4 or 5 days ago. We were down in Nottingham and I got up early and I did a video about the difficulties I've been facing writing on a regular basis over the last 3 weeks, where all I've been doing is traveling around Scotland and England with family over from Mexico, and how, although I've managed to write on a regular basis, it hasn't been as frequent as I wanted. I've probably written every couple of days, but I have still, in that time, had a lot of decent output, but I need to transfer that, as we said here, I need to write that up and get it onto my laptop. So that video has been done. It needs a thumbnail. I want to do a video about one of the Airbnbs we stayed at because it brought up lots of interesting topics, which I think are fascinating, and we'll talk about that. I've got some new coins arrived in the post while I was away last week, so I've got a video to do on those. Later today, I'm going to go down to the coffee shop and actually do those write-ups. I'm going to focus first on getting aspects of the house ready, and I can finish those off tonight. But I want to go to the coffee shop for 2 hours, and basically I want to go down to Left Terrace, which is the coffee house or the coffee shop that I like so much here in Bradford. I haven't done much walking recently other than between shops and museums around London. So I want to do 10 kilometres on the bike today and have a 30-minute walk before bed and catch up on some YouTube videos. So that's what today will look like. And then as we go through the week, I've started to see a pattern develop into how I've laid out what I want to happen. me take this off. So I'm seeing a pattern happen. So I've got house, YouTube, book, exercise, learning. Here I've got house, YouTube, book. I'm starting a new book this afternoon. Then I've got some admin. When I say this afternoon, I mean the Monday afternoon. But I've got a bunch of normal admin to do. So receipts, council tax, running an advert on one of the online websites, looking at the calendar for the local film club. I need a new rental agreement, and I've got some pension fund stuff to do based on the redundancy. But then I'm seeing the same pattern repeat itself. House, YouTube, book, reading, exercise. House, YouTube, book, reading, admin, money, etc. And that pattern repeats itself for my working week from Monday to Friday. One of the things I want to do, whether it's for having more time in Mexico or more time in Cyprus, is to clear out a lot of things. So I'm going to be getting rid of a lot of book stock. Here I'm talking about looking at some of the things that I've got in, basically I've got, let's call it a book stock room. And there's probably 1,300 books in there. In fact, I know there's a lot more than that because 800 of them are Ladybird books. So there's probably 2,500 books in there. But I want to start listing books and take pictures of boxes of 30 or 40 books at a time and just list them. So 30, 40, 50, 100 pounds, just to get rid of a large number of books and basically to free up a room. And because we've given ourselves a 5-month moving house deadline, I need to work towards that. But again, every day there is some YouTube work. I've got to put some shorts in. With the meaningful workbook, what I'm doing with this is I'm going to take each of the chapters and read them to camera so that you can have an audio experience of the book without me bringing on board a professional audio book narrator. I did that, by the way, for Climbing Out of Debt, and that's on Amazon audiobooks, and that does very well. But I want to try this one where it is a video package on YouTube so that maybe I get revenue from YouTube ads, but generally, so there is another playlist, which would be the entire output of the meaningful workbook. So I want to trial, if you can see that, I want to trial reading that out. I've got some shorts to do. On Tuesday, I'm writing for 4 hours, so I've upped it from a couple of hours tomorrow where I want to go into Leeds and use the city library. And then again, bike and walk, then a gap, and then bike and walk 2 days later. So Wednesday, listing of more specific books, having looked at general books here. Look at more recording of audio content. Be active with a camera and tripod and go and do some more writing places videos, because those are very steady earners, but they're very easy to make. I go to places that I like, I take a notepad and I work on my own writing project. But while I'm doing that, I set up the camera and it just captures the environment around me. So there's the sound of people, traffic, maybe background music, maybe an aircraft or two going overhead. If I'm down by the river, it will pick up the sound of the watercraft. Different things. I'm going to go into Leeds for some of that, and then I'm going to be at the Leeds Library for 2 hours. More reading activity on the Eric Ambler book. And then I'm starting to get ready for the weekend. This is Wednesday. At the weekend, I'm going to be running the Shut Up and Write workshop in Nottingham. But I'm going to take down some boxes of stamps and first day covers that I collected when I was a teenager. And now my son wants those. So I'm going to take those down to him and leave those with him. Various aspects of checking the cash. And again, looking at the end of the beta test on the Viralio website, looking at trading results. And also I've purchased silver for the last 6 months and gold. And I want to put together a spreadsheet that will show me what we've got in terms of value, but also in terms of ounces. That's Wednesday. Thursday, I'm getting rid of some furniture. All of this in preparation for a house move in 5 months' time. Audio recording, writing on the book, looking at the Eric Ambler book, because by now I'll be 4 days into it. I'm just going to put that on here actually. This is day 4 of my reading. So I should be halfway through the book, and that should give me some very interesting ideas. Ideas on how he writes his books, ideas on whether there is something in that story for me in terms of maybe the way his protagonist and supporting characters interact. Thursday I've got more admin, various simple straightforward things, a bit of exercise. Again, I've got to work out whether I want to do 10 kilometers on the bike and 30 minutes around the neighborhood. But I also want to introduce swimming, so that I've got swimming going onward from Thursday. And on the Friday, more book listings for books that are physically for sale. These are vintage books from the 1960s, 70s and 80s mainly. YouTube, I'm hoping that by then I'm up to speed and I have maybe a 2-week let's call it a pump. So I've got 2 weeks worth of material that I can allocate to the diary. Allocate to diary. So that when I go away for a little while in a month, in 2 or 3 weeks' time, I already have some content in the YouTube loading calendar so that things can automatically be added even though I'm not here. More writing in the afternoon at Left Terrace, looking again at the Eric Ambler book to see where we are. In terms of the finance for the Nottingham Writers Studio, I want to look at the latest numbers for the 2 months that have gone, June and July, before meeting with some of my colleagues. Then I've got the health check and then a taxi home. And then just have a little look at how that week has gone because of the previous planning that has all come out of me sitting down yesterday and thinking, okay, I've got a week ahead of me. What are the kind of things that I want to put in the diary and what aspects of my life do they come from? How do they affect my role as a husband and as a father? How do they work or relate to my work as an author? What about my role on the board of the writing studio? Where am I with production of a new manuscript? What's happening with future residency ideas and the finance to back those up? And all of these more detailed daily activities have come from that little half hour dumping all the ideas of the things that I wanted to look at over the course of this new week. That's my approach, speaking to you on a Sunday morning. That's my way of prepping for a week. I start with something very general, I drop the ideas in, and then I start to think, okay, what day of the week do I want to look at implementing some of the things that cropped up in the generic planning for the week ahead. That's me. That's me done. That's my little process, and I hope that you've enjoyed it, you found it useful, and you can get something from it that you can transport over to your diary and have the best possible week in the way that you lead your life. Have a great week.